Now, staying in the United States, the magnificent Miranda Devine has been flying the Australian flag sensationally. We should all be proud of her. She's been working for the New York Post as well as the Daily Telegraph and writing columns, and she broke, I think, one of the scandals of the decade, or if not recent decades, and that was about Hunter Biden and his laptop. And it linked him to a whole bunch of grubby operations, and it linked his father to a whole bunch of questionable operations. Now, Miranda Devine has written a book, and I'm delighted to say I got to speak with her earlier today. Miranda Devine, thanks for joining me on the Bolt Report tonight. You've just, or about to release a new book, Laptop from Hell, which lifts the lid on a scandal of monumental proportions that's actually linked to the now President of the United States. Tell us about it.
Hi, Corey. Thanks for having me on. Yes, the laptop from hell refers to the laptop that was abandoned at a Mac repair shop in Delaware that belonged to Hunter Biden, who is the drug-addled son of the current president, Joe Biden. And he dropped his waterlogged laptop off at this repair shop in April of 2019, just a few days before his father actually announced that he was going to run for president. So he disappeared, and the poor Mac repair guy, John Paul Mac Isaac, tried to track him down, called him several times, tried to get him to pay his $85 bill, and he refused. And so after 90 days, as per the work order that Hunter Biden had signed, that laptop legally became the property of John Paul Mac Isaac, who is the owner of that shop. Eventually, he gave it to the FBI about a year later, and after he got no response from the FBI, he ended up giving it to Rudy Giuliani, who, the former mayor of New York, also was at that point the personal lawyer for then President Donald Trump. And, you know, one thing led to another. He did his due diligence on it, Rudy Giuliani and his lawyer. And one night I'm sitting at home in this apartment in New York that I live in, and I get a text message with some very curious photographs on it. One of them being that famous photograph I think a lot of people have seen of, or maybe infamous, of Hunter Biden asleep with a crack pipe in his mouth. And that was the beginning. They had this enormous story 6 weeks before the presidential election that was going to reflect incredibly badly on one candidate, being Joe Biden, because the laptop contains overwhelming evidence of the influence peddling scheme that the Biden family was conducting for decades, using Joe Biden's name, going into countries like China and Ukraine, where Joe Biden was point man as vice president for the Obama administration, and where his family, especially Hunter Biden, who was the major bagman, managed to extract millions of dollars for the family coffers to enrich themselves on the back of Joe Biden's name. And there's suggestions there of quid pro quos involved. And the reason this is so important now, not just in America, but in Australia as well, is the laptop, the evidence on the laptop really gives us a very strong indication that China has something on Joe Biden. China has something on Joe Biden, that Joe Biden is compromised via his family with President Xi.
Well, Miranda, I think there's many of us that think Joe Biden is compromised more than just by the Chinese Communist Party. But let me jump back a bit. You said this laptop repairman had this evidence, provided it to the FBI 8 months or 9 months or even more before the US election. What did the FBI do with it? What did the law enforcement officials do with it? Because it's got not only the allegations of compromising Joe Biden, but there's a whole bunch of salacious, sort of unsavoury personal things in there that some would say are illegal too.
Yes, look, the FBI has had it for a long time. There are investigations, federal investigations. The Department of Justice is conducting one. The state of Delaware is conducting another criminal investigation into Hunter Biden. We only discovered that after the election, of course, when Hunter Biden issued a statement on Joe Biden's letterhead, who then, president-elect, admitting that there are now investigations into money laundering, into foreign agent registration violations and tax evasion, and also some sort of problems with dealing with foreigners. So there's a lot of problems there, but, the wheels of justice grind very slowly in this country, particularly when it comes to Democrats. And so, a lot of people are not really holding their breath for any of the Bidens to be brought to book. Also, Jim Biden, Uncle Jim, Hunter's uncle, who's Joe Biden's younger brother, who's up to his neck in this scheme, he's also under investigation for another set of criminal allegations. So who knows whether that will come to fruition. But we do know Hunter Biden has just published today his memoir called Beautiful Things. He's been doing the round of the talk shows, or CBS anyway, the easy ones. And he's declared that he has absolutely no worries. He's 100% certain that he is going to be cleared of any wrongdoing. And he also says that his father got not a nickel from his business dealings. And he also says, who needs a laptop? You've got a book, as if somehow the book has laundered all the wrongdoing on the laptop.
Miranda, is it true that he also said he doesn't recall knowing the woman that is the mother of one of his children?
It's
beggars
incredible.
belief.
He's a deadbeat dad.
Yeah, well, that's an understatement. But Miranda, you said the wheels of justice grind slowly or drive on slowly in the US. I tell you what doesn't go slowly, though, is the censorship of big tech, because you broke this story in the New York Post. It was an extraordinary story. It should have changed the election results. And in fact, I think it probably did have some impact. But you found yourself the subject, and the New York Post did, of enormous and swift censorship by these big tech titans. Tell us about that.
Well, it was incredible. Last year in October, we published the story, 5 a.m, and within a couple of hours, Facebook had decided that they would throttle the story, not allow it to be spread on their platform. They claimed that they were doing a fact check on it. That fact check still has not been done almost 6 months later. And Twitter basically locked the New York Post account for 2 weeks. And you're talking about 6 weeks before the election. That story, they did their very best to censor and suppress. As well as that, the establishment media ignored it, or they derided it as Russian disinformation, and they were aided in that. They had a fig leaf, which was the egregious former CIA director, John Brennan, who was up to his ears in the Russia collusion hoax. He got together a bunch of 50 former intelligence operatives, and they issued an open letter and said that the laptop was in their expert opinion, was Russian disinformation. They had not seen the laptop. They had not talked to anyone who had seen the laptop. They never bothered talking to us. We would have shown it to them. It wasn't Russian disinformation. It was Hunter Biden's laptop. All of the emails and text messages and documents and board papers that we've published are all legitimate. And my book is going to explode every single myth that's been told about it. And as well as the contents of the laptop, I have the contents of Tony Bobulinski's 3 phones that he handed over to the FBI. He, of course, was
He was Hunter Biden's business partner. Is that right?
That's right. In some of the Chinese deals, he was ripped off by Hunter Biden and his uncle. He was very angry. He only found out when there was a Senate inquiry by 2 fantastic Republican senators, Ron Johnson and Chuck Grassley, and they managed to there are some suspicious transactions that were flagged as they came into the country because they were over a certain amount of money and they were from certain countries, and those were tracked down to Hunter Biden and his businesses. So they started an investigation, and so when you add Tony Bobulinski, you add the Senate investigation, and you add the laptop, plus there's another trove of information from another former business partner of Hunter Biden, currently in jail over another one of their schemes gone wrong.